I will ask you a follow-up question. I hope you will be able to wrap it up quickly about concerning the shareholding structure. Because someone said, can you really say that shareholders appoint board members, or they merely ratify men and women selected by the controlling shareholders? So I would like to really, I would like to twist the question in this way. So what is the how can the minority shareholders come in when you see that your interest, and especially the interest of the company, like what we had in First Bank, that the interest of the company is not even being protected? So how can the minority shareholders come in and even the board member turn things around when you see that the majority shareholders and the people they are projecting are not people that are bringing value to the company? How can you turn things around? Thank you. Briefly, sir.
Yes. So this is one of those questions that somebody will say touches the heart, because we have several lived experiences on this, and I can tell you it is not the easiest thing for the minority stakeholders in the boardroom to prevail in the place of decision making. Oftentimes, especially where you have the majority shareholder as your strategic partner. In the first place, these are often the strategic partners are often people with long-term industry knowledge, long-term knowledge in that particular sector of your business, and therefore they have been given a lot of latitude, in decision making, in running the organization and the likes. So if I think this will actually be about individuals that such shareholders then put on the board. I tell you, when they have strong personalities on the board, they do not allow the voice of the minority shareholders to prevail. I can tell you that, because they come with a high horse mentality. They come with I know it all type of attitude. And they come also with the fact that, look, in any case, we are the financial, backbone of this organization. So your little shareholding shouldn't control what happens in the company. So they come with such attitudes that eventually messes everybody up in the first place. Do you understand? So how would the minority stakeholders will only continue to be brave to make their voices heard? Okay? Sometimes it may turn to arguments, sometimes it may turn to, some kind of conflicts. But at the end of the day, even if you subject such subject matters to vote, the majority shareholder also have a higher voting right, at the end of the day. So it really puts the minority stakeholder in a very disadvantaged position. That is why, if you are going to be a minority stakeholder in a company and you really want your voice to be heard, there should be also independent directors in that board, on that board, such that when you're making a good point, you will be able to have 1, 2, or 3 persons back your opinion. And that's the only way the majority stakeholder sometimes, backs down on their own opinion. But if it is just between you and this strong personality who happen to be the majority stakeholder, and his cronies on that board, is usually extremely difficult. But when it has to do with things that has to do with legalities, if it has to do with things that are ethical in nature, yes, the minority stakeholder would prevail, because the law supersedes how much shares each person has on the board. You understand? The law is the law. So the majority stakeholder will comply, because this is now bordering on ethics. But when it has to do with direction of the company, the majority stakeholder may say, we want to open 10 branches this year. And the minority stakeholder may say, isn't that too ambitious? Can we do 5? The majority stakeholder is going to say, well, I think 10 is what we cut it for us. In any case, we're making most of the financial contribution. they have a way of shutting down the minority stakeholder. So if you're invested in as a minority stakeholder in a company, you must be ready to swallow and stomach some of this type of situation. But that does not mean that your voice should not be heard. Where you have a different opinion, it's always good to have that opinion, because the minutes of the meeting will capture your opinion. So whether your opinion prevails on the day or not, always make your opinion count. It will be in the minutes of the meeting. 10 years down the line, somebody will pick that minutes of the meeting to see that you actually cautioned this company against this opinion, but the majority stakeholders' opinion prevailed. So your opinion may not prevail on that day of the meeting, but let it be on record that you had a superior argument, but your stakeholding, which is not big enough, did not allow your argument to prevail. All right? So this is how it plays out. Thank you. Let me stop there.
Thank you so much. That was a very practical answer. We have to speak out as a minority, and I like the emphasis on if it borders on legalities. The majority must bow. And I also like to add that that is where whistleblowing comes in, the whistleblowing policy, and the company secretary comes in. So, like you said, speak out, because it will be captured in the minutes, and some minutes can also be read in the annual general meeting. So we have more questions coming in, but before I'll go back to Dr. Benson, let me put this question to Dr. Odutolu. You said throughout your board experience, you only missed one board meeting. That is so, that is great. So we have a meeting, a question here from Kelechi Umanozie. He said, if board members meet few times in a year, how do they make sure that the company do not fail financially? If something tragic happens between the meeting times, how would the board mitigate it? Dr. Dutton.
Yeah, I think that's a very simple question. There are also provisions made in the Memorandum of Understanding or Memorandum of Association for emergency meetings. There is provision for that, and that instrument, can be used, by the board chairman to call such meetings to address the particular situation that is on ground. We say there are a few board meetings in a year, 2, 3 in a year, but that does not mean that board members are not working behind the scene. Dr. Benson made mention of board committees. There are also times when you interact directly with the management to know what is going on, and stuff like that. There are so many work behind the scene, beyond the 2, 3 meetings that is held within the year. And there is also, as I said, there is provision for emergency meetings, both for the committees and the board itself, and the entire board itself. Thank you.
Okay, so you make use of your board committees and there's emergency meetings, and you can even on the personal level interact, not overbearing though, but you can on the personal level interact with the CEO as well. Thank you very much, Dr. Odutolu. Just another follow-up question that somebody has for Dr. Benson. I'm aware that in some jurisdictions, example, Germany, there are provisions in the law for advisory boards. He's now saying, how do we propose advisory boards will work in Nigeria? Is there any provision for it in Kama? There's no specific provision in the Nigerian Code of Corporate Governance for that. Very different jurisdictions have different things. But Dr. Benson, can you speak to that? How do you propose it can work in Nigeria?
Presently, it is not statutory, so it is not required by law that you should have an advisory board as a company in Nigeria. But I was just saying that ultimately, the aim of every management team, the aim of every CEO as the leader of the company is to do well and leave a legacy that maybe some other persons will come to ride upon, okay? So you really want to do well, you can independently on your own co-opt people. It's you who will invite those individuals to form a small ad hoc membership that will be your advisory board, so to speak. They don't take decisions on behalf of your company. No, they are advisory. So every time you meet, you're going to be laying your issues before them. You're going to be presenting to them the challenges or the things you're facing. You're going to also be giving them some ideas you are nursing. So you're actually picking their brain to, gain from their wealth of experience. Board does not require, so much formality, but it is a board that will play a significant role in helping your company to do well and also helping you as a leader of a company. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So that's discretionary, depending on your peculiarities of your industry and your experience or situation. So the next question goes to Dr. Odutolu. So we always hear about rifts between CEOs and the board. A CEO is actually a member of the board, is an executive member of the board, but there appears to be friction sometimes and many times between the CEO and the board. So can you speak on board member relationship with the CEO? What insights can you give to improve and to enhance effectiveness of the board, even looking at the relationship between the CEO and the board?
Between the board and the management, how has it been and what can be done to improve the relationship? I think the first thing is to appreciate the differences between the role of the board and the role of the management. Clearly, the board, as we have been repeating here, is for governance and oversight. While the executive, they do the day-to-day management, of the organization. The board acts in the best interest of the company and its shareholders, interfaces with the management, but essentially, just like, you give her the key responsibilities, is when we begin to cross the line, that's when we have this type of trouble, that we see between the board and the management. Again, the law is very important in this wise, and as I mentioned earlier on, apart from KAMA itself, you mentioned the code of conduct, and we also mentioned each organization has its memorandum of understanding and their, articles of association. These are the guiding principles that says, the board members in general must see themselves as, not the one running the company. They are not the one running the company, and they must stay. It's like you are just peeping in to see what is going on and, avoiding, going into the day-to-day operations of the organization. The word operation is critically important in separating the roles. You are non-operational. You are, governance, and these core people who are the executive, who are the MDs and all these things, the CEOs, they are the operational people. You provide the policy environment. You make sure that they are within the corporate accounting and reporting system. You are reviewing the guidelines and policies of organization that they are keeping within it, but you don't put yourself, you are not the face of the organization. Sorry, to put it that bluntly. You are not the face of the organization. In many instances, where being a board member or chairman of the board, I stay away from, they want to showcase you as you are their board chairman, but I'm reluctant in coming out as the board member or chairman of a board and things like that, because I know that's not my role, and you don't get to the position where the management sort of, put you in the position to jeopardize you being effective as a board member by compromising you, with all these accolades and, and all what is not supposed to be. In essence, what I'm saying is, as a board, you act in the best interest of the company and its shareholders in terms of your oversight functions concerning the ethics what is the guiding principle, what is the corporate accounting and reporting system issues that you make sure that they are effectively adhering to. I'm also in a position somewhere where I also look at procurements and all these things that give approval before the board meeting. What I usually say is ensure that you adhere to the procurement policies of the organization. I keep off, but I just make that statement there so that they adhere to it. I will not, finish answering this question without bringing in, some examples, of what we have seen in other clients or in other places, especially where you have a CEO, a former CEO, becoming like, full board member or chairman of the board, not remembering that it's no longer what it used to be, and he's calling the accountant, he's calling the this person and that person. It's no longer your role. It's when you are the CEO that you have control and oversight over all these people. Now you are in a different shoes, and you should be able to demarcate between what the board does and what management does, and to not overstep your bound. The journal article I read on this topic became a big thing that almost ended in killing the organization, because the first thing it was doing was that it was attending management meetings. It's not your role to attend management meetings as a board person. Even when the management invites you for any reason, you decline. It's not, you are not to be in management meetings. It's not your business. So I would say sometimes it becomes a very fine, thin line. But if you keep to the ethics, if you keep to the board charter, if you keep to the prevailing law, you will not run into the mistake of having a confrontation with the management. Restraint is the word. Even when you see things are not going the way you think as a person, it's for the entire board to look at it and say, this is not going. It's not for you to jump into the fray and put yourself in a management situation. You are not a manager. You are a director, and you should keep to your lane. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that answer. That it's in summary, you said you should just know your duties and stick to it. So I would just like you to just put in a word, just very briefly. There are sometimes the board are actually doing their work, but the CEO, because the board can do little or nothing if the CEO does not provide information, it don't let them know what is going on. So such issues, how can the board what can the board do? We are doing your part, but the CEO is not playing his part, because what they tell you, that's what you act on, as it were, most times. So very briefly, how do you say that scenario? What do you do?
I agree with you, is that what the management present to the board, that's what the board use for, making its decisions and things like that. But the board also has, just as Dr. Benson said the other time, using independent directors, but which I also say that in our law, the board also has the opportunity of commissioning, commissioning people to do a survey, for example, in human resources of the organization, which we do regularly in one of the places where I belong to, and they give reports, of such surveys and things like that. From the findings of surveys like that, right, you have something to work with. We discovered that only 2% of your staffs are female. Why is this happening? It may not have come to the attention of the CEO, not that the CEO is deliberately doing that. And there are other instances from the management report, from accounts, from audit reports of the organization, where things will come up. I would say most of the time when the boards want to intervene in issues like this, it should not be gossip, it should not be hearsay. There must be evidence, and I've mentioned some instances where you can get your evidence from audit reports. You can get, the management report, report on the audit report. They usually put a statement, in that statement, you can find out 1, 2, 3 things that are not going right, with the organization. You can have the donor. I'm talking about for problem, the donor making a complaint or saying something that, these are evidence that you have that you can use in engaging the CEO. Please don't depend on hearsay. Don't listen to gossip from the staff, and all this. You hear it, but it's not your business from the staff and things like that, but things that are evidence-based, that's what you use.
Thank you so much. That was very insightful. Evidence-based from the audit. You can also commission a survey. That is so proactive. Thank you so much. So